Well, the decision by Orlando Pirates Football Club to go ahead, in fact, to even schedule a fixture against Israeli club Maccabi Tel Aviv has caused a huge stir, not only in South Africa, but across the world. Those who follow Orlando Pirates, even far and wide in the African continent, and some have called for the club to boycott that match, to cancel it, if you want to put it that way. And on the other hand, some have said, look, can you not put sport and politics in the same place? Can you try and separate the two? But how realistic is it in a country like South Africa that has always seen sport and politics somehow intertwine at different points in our lives, in certainly the young democracy of this country? Let's delve deeper into this conversation about the relationship between the two and talk to a senior lecturer at the University of Stellenbosch, and he's in sports history. That's Dr. Francois Cleopas. He's joining us from Switzerland this morning. Dr. Cleopas, thank you so much for your time, for affording us this opportunity. Let's start here. Is it even possible to separate the two, sport and politics, particularly in South Africa?
Good morning. I think the answer is quite clear. Sport has always been an integral part of politics, and politics has always been an integral part of sport. The first official South African rugby tour was marketed in as a tour of bringing the British and the Afrikaners together. So, and since then, and not only since then, and even before that, sport has always been a part of a political agenda, and also vice versa.
And even in the apartheid days, Dr. Cleopas, from my understanding, South Africa was readmitted into international competition by different bodies like your International Olympic Committee, FIFA, and all those international bodies in 1992. But what was the reason for the banning in the first place? It had a lot to do with the politics of the day.
Yes, so a very simple answer will be because of South Africa's apartheid politics of the day. But we must never forget that the international community was always in favor of keeping sporting ties with the apartheid state. It was only due to the very, very serious struggle of people like Dennis Brutus and his followers in SASA, and then later of the SACOS, that the apartheid state was forced out of the international sporting world. And a very uncomfortable thing, we must also say, South Africa was readmitted into the international world during the apartheid period. In 1992, apartheid was still on the books. Mm-hmm. And the country and the new government made enormous concessions that we are paying the price for today. There's been no real sport development in our townships. A very, very sad thing is coming to the fore now, where I'm trying to tell people not to think like that. But some people are even saying that we were better off during the apartheid days when it came to sport. Such kind of wrong thinking is taking place because of the conditions of expectations that were not fulfilled.
And is it not then on the basis of that international support that South Africa received then, Dr. Cleopas, where the international community was in support of the banning because of apartheid, and then when it looked like apartheid was slowly coming to an end with the negotiations, the CODESAs of this world and everything, then they rallied behind South Africa again to get readmitted. Is it not on the basis of that Orlando Pirates is then urged and reminded that we stood with you in the dark days of apartheid? Why are you then sort of nonchalantly just going ahead with playing a game against Israel, against a club from Israel? I beg your pardon.
Yes. So you must remember the country that we're talking about now was never actively involved in the sports boycott. This country we're talking about now supported the apartheid sport bodies. So it's a bit out of touch to be saying that we must now engage constructively with this particular country because of a support that we received during apartheid. That just is not true. The kind of language that is also being floated about now, such as constructive engagement. This was the same kind of language what the boycott breakers were employing during the apartheid days. If you remember, the British Lions sent a boycott breaking rugby tour. New Zealand also sent a boycott breaking rugby tour under Billy Beaumont. And the words that they were used were very similar to constructive engagement. And we know that constructive engagement under apartheid conditions did not work. It did not benefit the oppressed.
Interesting. I read an article this morning, Dr. Cleopas, from a person who claims to be an Orlando Pirates fan and is based somewhere in the Gaza and was basically saying it is tantamount to constructive engagement. What the reasons that Orlando Pirates tried to merit going ahead with the game for. But let's talk about that statement then that they put out to say if they do heed the call that comes from any other body other than the South African government or from FIFA, their reputation will be irreparably damaged. Is that true, or are they risking going the opposite direction if they do play that game later on today? Is the damage, the reputational damage, in that case, going to be irreversible for Orlando Pirates?
Yes, look, it's very, very difficult to say how things will unfold going forward, because the capitalist news media shapes the minds of people. You must remember, during the apartheid days, there were many black people who supported apartheid sport because they were pumped with ideas of sport unites and all this kind of nonsense talk. So it's very difficult to say what kind of damage Orlando Pirates will have if they proceed with this particular match. What I think needs to be looked at is the whole moral about this. Is it politically, morally justifiable for Orlando Pirates to proceed? And the answer is quite obviously no. I can't, because given the large support that many people in this country have for the Palestinian cause, given it large base of support, and I'm sure also a large base of support amongst Orlando Pirates fans, you cannot morally justify proceeding with this match. I don't know to what extent the Orlando Pirates consulted with their fan base, or they consulted with their supporter base. But if I must be a Pirate supporter, Orlando Pirate supporter, I'll have serious doubts about giving them support in the future.
Wow, strong words there, Dr. Francois Cleopas. Thank you so much for your time. We have to leave it there. I suppose the awkward place that Orlando Pirates and football fans find themselves in now is that South Africa, and this is by the ANC's own concession, that there's no cultural boycott against Israel in place, or a policy in place that, you know, clearly defines where South Africa is. And that's what Pirates justified their stance with. So we'll see how it goes. There is no time, interestingly, yet given on the start, the kickoff for that game. We'll see everything as the day goes. Thank you so much to Dr. Cleopas for talking to us this morning from the University of Stellenbosch.